I'm not sure if congratulations or condolences are in order, but whatever the case, if you're watching this video, you probably got here because you're navigating some kind of change at work, either currently or you're anticipating that. And frankly, even if you're not right now, chances are in the 21st century, given that the only constant is change, you will be at some point. My name is Robert Peak. I teach a methodology called Getting Things Done, or GTD, and I also consult with organizations that are undergoing major change. And in the past 20 years of teaching and consulting, I've found one tool in particular to be incredibly valuable for individuals that are navigating major change at work. So in this video, I want to share with you something that I've also personally found incredibly powerful to help stay sort of on top of things, to help feel like you're in charge of the process to the extent you can be, and to preserve your well-being in the midst of what can sometimes be a tumultuous time. The results of major change at work usually fall into two areas. First, it's a change in people, and second, it's a change in responsibilities. So for you, that means you may have a new boss, you may have new colleagues, you may have new direct reports. You also may have areas of responsibility that you're handing over and/or areas of responsibility that you're taking on as new. And one of the most stressful things you can do in a time of major change is to try and keep all this in your head. And so in the Getting Things Done, or GTD methodology, we not only teach you how to get all kinds of things out of your head, but we look at work as happening in sort of different levels. And one of these levels we call the areas of focus. These are the ongoing areas that you're responsible for, that you care about, and we look at these both in work and in life. So a very powerful tool you can use, the tool I recommend to help you navigate change at work, is something I call the Areas of Focus map. Here's an example. Here's my Areas of Focus map. As you can see, I've divided it into professional and personal. In this video, we're focusing on the professional side. So we're going to look at the left-hand side in particular. And as you can see, these are all areas that matter to me. They're all areas where you might use verbs or action words like ensure, develop, promote, maintain, support, or just have healthy relationship with, right? So these are all nouns, they're all the subjects involved, but those are the kinds of verbs you'd be using if you were to write a sentence, right? So a sentence like maintain positive relationships with Todd, or ensure that you're optimizing your sales pipeline. So these areas all exist, and probably if they're not written down somewhere, they're more or less in your head. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but very often the job descriptions that we give to recruiters, or even ones that we publish internally to fill roles, are incomplete and sometimes fairly inaccurate once you actually get going in the job role and realize there's a lot more to it, or there's differences or subtleties that aren't captured in a simple job description. So this is a little different. This is a little more comprehensive and hopefully a little more practical and real for you about what you're actually doing, about what you're actually focusing on in your job. So if you want to make this practical for you, the first thing you can do, you don't need a fancy mind mapping electronic tool, unless of course that helps you because you like it. You can just grab a piece of paper and in the middle of the page, just write current role. And from there, you're just drawing spokes out from that, doing a spider diagram, or mind map as they sometimes call it, of the different areas of focus in your current role. If you want to pause the video, you could even go ahead and do that right now. Okay. Having done that, hopefully you have a little bit more of a sense of the whole picture of what your current role is and what you've been doing all this time. Now, let's have a look at the new landscape. What's coming? What's next? What's happening? If you know what that is, you can do this next exercise. If you don't know what that is, you can start to lay out what your ideal would be anyway. You can again take a moment and just in the middle of a new page, write new role. And once again, start filling out those spokes. What are those areas of responsibility in the new role? There will be potentially some duplication between the two, but just take the time to focus on the new, either ideal or received understanding that you have of that new role. Take a minute, pause the video if you like, and go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now you have a kind of map of the current reality and a map of the new or desired reality. What do you notice? Probably you notice that you're going to be letting go of some things and you're going to be taking on some things. That makes a lot of sense. And while it's true that the map isn't the territory, a map can help you get from point A to point B. So that's a lot of the purpose behind this mapping exercise. But to take it a step further and to make it even more practical for you, the next thing I'd like you to do is basically create a 2-column list. So you might take a third sheet of paper, or you can do this electronically as well if you can sort of divide a document in half using columns. And here I want you to write in the left column letting go, and the right column taking on. Go ahead and just get a more linear view now of what the specific things are that you're letting go of and taking on. Again, you can pause the video and do that if you like now. Okay, so now how do you get there? What is the path? In the GTD methodology, we talk about projects, those sort of multi-step goals that you have in your life, as desired outcomes sometimes. So what are your desired outcomes in relation to each one of these things that you're letting go of and each one of these things that you're taking on? For example, if I'm letting go of a sales responsibility, my desired outcome might be that I've successfully and effectively handed over all of my key clients to my new salesperson, right? So effectively and handed over well all of those key clients to Miles, for example. And that might be a project, a desired outcome that I have as a result of understanding what's going on in this transition. Likewise, if I'm taking on new responsibilities, such as developing educational materials, I might have a desired outcome to understand from the managing director of the company what key educational objectives she has for the coming year. Right? So understand key educational objectives and begin to develop a plan to implement these might be my desired outcome, the kind of very next major finish line I'm going to cross in the journey to becoming a bit more of an educational content developer in my new role. It's going to be very different for you, of course, depending on what you're dealing with. And obviously, if some of these are ideal rather than foregone new responsibilities that you're taking on, a great thing you can do is take these maps, take this information, and now that it is externalized, not just in your head, you can take this to the boss, right? You can also take this to your colleagues, you can take this to your direct reports, and you can start to form a picture through a conscious conversation about what's happening here to make sure all the bases are covered, to make sure all the responsibilities are handled in the new world order, as it were, and to make sure that you're also having your voice heard about what you'd like to do and what you think makes sense for you to do. Navigating change can be tricky, but it's especially tricky when all of it's up in your head, when you haven't really gotten to grips with ways to communicate with others. And that's part of why this Areas of Focus map is such an incredibly powerful tool. So if you like, you can take a minute now and have a look at the areas that you're letting go of, the areas that you may want to be taking on, and start to draft out a list of some of the key desired outcomes you have to navigate this effectively. And if you haven't already, I would suggest that one of those key desired outcomes would be to have a conversation with whoever it is that manages you about what your areas of focus are and are going to be and how to manage that transition. Change can be scary, of course, but change is also an opportunity for those who know what they want and know how to manage the process of getting there to potentially have a huge upgrade at the end of the day in terms of their whole life circumstances. But in order to do that, you really have to take those circumstances into account. And one of the best ways I've found to do that is the Areas of Focus map. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I hate to tell you, but You are in charge of knowing what it is you're in charge of. You need to understand that. You need to have some way of potentially reviewing that periodically so that you can take good decisions about where to place your focus moment to moment. And it's especially critical in times of major change at work. I hope this was useful to you. If it was, I want to just point out that this is one of a great many tools and techniques in the Getting Things Done methodology that I've seen help countless people in getting more on top of their life and work in times of great change and otherwise. So to get more of this kind of thinking, please do hit like and subscribe. Meanwhile, whatever you're dealing with, wishing you a lot of good luck. You got this.